Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitators and coaches Betsy McLaughlin and Kathy Williams to delve into different areas of your life, get unstuck, and create the life that is truly possible for you. These joyful ladies have changed their lives by utilizing the tools and techniques they share with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Kathy and Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Imperfect Brilliance, where we always have so much fun playing together. And I am Betsy McLaughlin, here with my fabulous co-host, Miss Kathy Williams. And
hi, everybody.
Really excited. Hi. I'm sorry, I just wanted to keep talking because we're so excited about our guest today and our topic. And our topic is tips for navigating the C word, cancer. How many lives, how many people do you know who have had lives totally, and their worlds totally turned upside down with the three little words, either I have cancer, that you hear from family, friends, and loved ones, or when the doctor very casually says to you, oh, by the way, you have cancer. So our discussion today is going to be around how those what you can do when you are impacted by hearing these words, and what you can do to contribute to family or friends that might be going through cancer treatments. And this will be a very different conversation about, what can we do to create more ease in their lives. And our guest today is Fiona Dempster. And Fiona is a fabulous person who we both adore. And she is also a planetary playmate, which I love that description. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. She's also a horticulture therapist, which you'll have to tell us more about that. And she is also a bone cancer victor. Just to start, and just to name a few things about Fiona, and yes, yay for sure. And she plays, like we do, with the pragmatic tools of access consciousness. She also plays with the magnificence of planet Earth. And she knows the magic that the universe contributes to us. And she invites possibilities, choices, questions, and contributions to be revealed in your life that will allow you to create something greater when and if you choose. So welcome, Fiona. We're thrilled to have you with us today.
Hi, Fiona.
Here. Hi.
Thanks for being here with us.
Oh,
definitely.
Right? Thanks for being.
Yes. So where shall we start this amazing conversation about cancer, which a lot of people don't even like to talk about? Well, would you like to tell us maybe a little bit about your journey?
Yeah.
I can. And I love the fact that I'm making it a really brief journey. So,
yeah.
So in October of 17, not even a year ago, my body became very ill and was cranky and wanted some attention. And I was away, not in my hometown. I was actually traveling internationally and living in Canada for a month. And I knew something was wrong, and I didn't want to come to conclusion, and I didn't really want to go to the ends of the earth where it was like, oh, I have cancer. So after a few more months, I was officially diagnosed. My body was officially diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and it happened to be the day before my birthday, which is not very fun, which is also 12 days before Christmas. So it was quite an interesting holiday time. And I had so many blood tests and other tests, you know, the MRI, the CT scan, the PET scan, and the bone marrow biopsy, that I already knew where the diagnosis was headed. So it wasn't a surprise when the doctor had confirmed it. And we launched right into chemotherapy. And there are options. There are other choices. You don't have to take what the doctor says right off the bat. I actually had one drug protocol that they were planning, and one of the drugs I was not comfortable with taking because it was a drug that's known to create birth defects in babies. And I'm not even 50, and I'm not saying I want children, but I don't really want to take something that would affect the genetic makeup of my body or future generations. So I actually went to my oncologist and I said, I don't want to take that drug. What else do you have? Which is huge, to actually not, you know, buy what the doctors say off the bat when it comes to cancer. So that was the beginning of my journey. And
so was that a surprise for the oncologist? To be questioned?
No, she was, thankfully I have an oncologist that just kind of rolls with whatever I ask for. She doesn't fight it, and she doesn't roll her eyes. She's really just kind of like, okay, you know, it's not what I would recommend, but I can't tell you what to do for your body. So here's the alternatives. And realistically, they had 12 protocols available. Wow. So it wasn't like this is the only thing that's going to take care of this. It was the best. It was the Cadillac that they knew because it had the most results available. But also it's like, okay, so that's still not something I want to choose. So so thankfully I had a doctor that didn't buy into it.
Right. Yeah, everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, just because they have the Cadillac doesn't mean the Cadillac's going to be what's best for your body. Exactly, for sure. So, that was the beginning, and they wanted 4 months of chemotherapy, and they were already lining me up for bone marrow transplant after that, which is very, very involved and very not nice to the body, and more intense than what they had already said I required. And none of that was going to work for me. I was still sitting on the fence when I started chemotherapy about whether I really wanted to live or die, because dying is choice and living is a choice. And I was having a challenging time living. Like, living wasn't fun for me. So, you know, here I created a way out. And I was in the emergency room twice before Christmas with all of my veins already blown out from all the blood draws. Yep. And I was in this tiny little waiting room cubicle with, you know, the door closed and no one could see in the window. So they could basically forget you as long as they wanted to. And I was like, wow, this is no way to live, because I had no desire for the illness to become my life. And it was also no way to die. So that was the changing point for me, where it was like, okay, what else is possible, and how can we do this as quickly as we can? So that was my turning point. So you were in the hospital. This was before Christmas, and were you in Honolulu? No, I was actually on the Big Island in my little local ER. I'm a Kaiser patient, but there's no ER in my neighborhood for Kaiser, so I just went to the other hospital. Because I was told if my temperature got to be 100.5, I'd have to go to the ER, since I was now on chemotherapy, which is why I was there. And
your temperature was what?
100.5. It wasn't even 101.
Oh, it was.
It was. So, yeah. So I followed, I wasn't going to mess with it because this is the first time I've, been under chemotherapy treatment. So I didn't want to mess around with it and, do something stupid. So, because I was already feeling kind of stupid by getting to this point anyway.
Well, can I ask you, were you ignoring your, things that your body was telling you for a while?
Good question. And I'm sure there were moments when my body was attempting to tell me something that I wasn't paying attention to. But I think a lot of it was my mindset. Like really the stories in my head, the conclusions and the decisions and the judgments I had made about living and life. And a friend of mine that I held dear in my life had committed suicide a few months before I became really ill. And I remember looking at this whole thing and really, so I'm going to back up a little bit with that, Betsy. After my diagnosis, a friend of mine asked, well, what are you dying to get out of? Which is really great to look at, like, okay, how did we get here? so to speak, right? And so in reviewing the previous year, and it wasn't all at once. It was, over, I still get awarenesses of what catalyzed all of this and got me to actually choose. And one was a friend of mine committed suicide, and I had basically said, oh, if they're not here, life isn't worth living. If they're not on the planet, then there's no point in me being here. Yeah, right? So we can create these things, with our attitudes, our points of view, our judgments, our conclusions. And then just in the last 48 hours, I had another awareness that, there was a lot going on last year at this time, actually, that changed a lot of things for me. A very prominent person left the company I work for, and that changed the energy. And then my friend died, and that changed the energy. So it's been really interesting to go, oh, wow, I bought that as, now it's time to check out.
Wow.
And the way to check out is create cancer. Okay, cool. It's, from my perspective, and my perspective alone, it's an acceptable form of suicide in this life. Because, now it's going to take however long, but it's actually not me doing it. It's the cancer that's killing me, rather than, I actually created it, and now it's time to change it. So thankfully, I have amazing tools to look at it and go, well, is it really time to go, or can I actually change something?
Right.
So here I am talking to you guys. I've been off chemotherapy since March, and I feel great. I do blood tests every 6 weeks. That's all I do. And my oncologist, was kind of like, okay, I quit chemotherapy 2 months early. My blood test results, the cancer markers were plummeting with what we were doing. And it wasn't just chemotherapy. I was blending that with whatever else showed up. If it felt like something my body wanted to try, I would try it. I would do it. I would add it. So it wasn't just your standard protocol. And so much of it was like humor, and my attitude and
Yeah.
my point of view. So the more I could address it and turn it 180, like, yes, people say my cancer, right? I never claimed it as my cancer. It was the cancer. And that changes so much energetically, where it's like, no, we're dealing with something that isn't mine. It's like, oh, okay, you're here, and you're just here temporarily because we're getting rid of you as quickly as we can. So, yeah, very, very different. And people trip over, the fact that, it wasn't even 6 months that I was sick.
Right. It's such a marvelous story, to hear this. And I too am a victor of cancer. When reading that, I was like, oh, I like how you said that. And at the time, I didn't have all the wonderful tools and everything that I now know. And I look at all of that time, and I'm like, oh, I know that it would have been different. And I still had a lot of kind of innate sense of what to do. And that question about, like, what was I dying to get out of? I definitely was not a happy person in my life. And I kind of had the attitude, well, if this doesn't get better, I'm not sure I want to be here. And so when you said the part you said about, well, it's kind of a slow way to kill yourself, that's really, I was like, I can so identify with that. And it's not a question or that a lot of people even would think to ask, like, well, and so at the beginning of this show, I said this will be a very different conversation because it's not something that most people are even aware of, that, through our unhappiness and through, different things that are going on in our life, we can create things in our body. And just the same, we can create something different. So the fact you stopped chemotherapy 2 months early when you were like, hey, wait a minute, you know what? I am choosing to stay here. So with that, then what can I create and what else truly is possible? And so this is something that is just such really an interesting thing, that it's not like you set out 2 months ago or 2 years ago to say, hey, I'm going to slowly kill myself with cancer. And so we will talk a little bit more about this, and I'm sure way more, when we return from our break. And thank you guys so much for listening and to this very different conversation today about cancer with our guest, Fiona Dempster. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thank you, guys.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On. My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance, everyone. I'm Kathy Williams here with Betsy McLaughlin, my co-host, and our guest today, Fiona Dempster. And we're talking about tips for navigating the C word, cancer. How much does that impact people's lives when they hear, either you have cancer or I have cancer? So, and yet it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be. And Fiona also touched upon, death is a choice. So we can talk a little bit more about that, because I think that brought some question in some people's universes, like, what? And before we get back to the show, Fiona, I'd just like to ask, do you have anything going on that where maybe if you have a website or a class going on, or I know that I took one of your classes, which was fabulous and fun, and if there's a way that people can find you if they have individual questions or something like that, and we can reiterate that at the end, but yes.
Absolutely. I set up a little website called AlohaMyeloma.com. And
I love that.
That was basic. And aloha in Hawaiian has many meanings, one of which means goodbye. So that's how I put together AlohaMyeloma.com, basically saying bye-bye to the cancer in a very different way. So through that website, people can contact me through just a little form to fill out on the contact page. And I don't currently have any classes going on, but I am in the works of creating a very different, in choosing to live, I really got clear on what it is I wanted to create in my life and my living, and actually have that action verb of living and, being involved in it and not just living on the surface anymore. Being dazed and confused or lost or not willing to actually engage and choose. So I actually just did a free Zoom telecall, an hour talking about the planet and the earth, because I love the earth and the trees and nature and where I live and when I travel. So I'm actually going to be starting a monthly subscription program to do Zooms about the planet. I'll be offering video meditations and all sorts of wonderful things. So if you are interested in that, you can always just fill out the form on AlohaMyeloma.com and let me know, and I'll send more information when my first Earth Mail is available. So how cool is that?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's fun. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as I said, I've been on one of your calls, and so that particular one was on healing and cancer, and so I know that you do that as well, and maybe people who are interested in future classes could also head to Aloha Myeloma and check that out.
Yeah. And actually, thank you for reminding me about that, because I didn't even recall the irrational healing telecall I did. It was 3 parts, and we talked a lot about how my journey was very irrational. It made no sense to anybody but me, for which I was truly grateful, because we all know something about healing, and often we don't acknowledge it, and we're not willing to advocate for ourselves and say, no, I'm not actually going to do that, or I'm willing to do part of that, and in addition, I'm going to choose this, which is exactly what I did. I said, okay, I actually checked in with my body about the chemotherapy, and it's like, no, yeah, that's what's required, but not that one drug, and we got on a different protocol, and after 10 weeks, my body was like, we're bored with this. It's boring to go
do this, take this, and then be sick for 3 days and rinse and repeat.
So could I ask a question? Because what I'm getting is that some people are like, well, you checked in with your body. How did you do that? What was that like? I don't know how to do that. So could you talk a little bit more about what that was for you?
For me, one of the tools I've been playing with for years, with Access Consciousness, actually, I was familiar with muscle testing, something that people do where you might have a piece of fruit or supplements that you want to take, and you actually hold it in front of you and you ask your body, hey, body, would you like to ingest this? And your body will respond in a particular way. It's different for everybody. And for me, my body would lean towards the item if it wanted me to ingest it and lean away if it didn't. So
yes,
I obviously didn't do that with the chemotherapy drugs because I didn't have them physically in my hand before I asked.
Right.
So it's really more of that energetic conversation. At first, it's acknowledging that, oh my gosh, my body actually knows something that I might not know. So getting out of my own way and, getting out of I know everything and my body is just a suit, right? Or whatever you want to say. So I would just ask. It's like, okay, cool. What about this? What about that? Yes or no? And it does lean one way or the other when I have those. Like I'll imagine, chemotherapy in one hand and no chemotherapy in another. And it will lean towards one or the other. So that's how I went about with that. And I didn't conclude after I had started the chemotherapy that we were going to continue to do it. I kept checking in with my body because things change every day. And some people may have heard that with chemotherapy and cancer, often the drugs are not, Kathy mentioned at the beginning that every body is different. And when it comes to pharmaceuticals, every body is very different because one person might only be 100 pounds and the other person might be 150 pounds. And in the past, I'm not sure it may have changed, but in the past, the 100-pound person was getting the same dosage as the 150-pound person, which doesn't sound quite right, does it?
Right.
So that's where I continued to check in and be like, okay, is this still working? And another great tool I used was when I went for my sessions, I would actually talk to my body and I would say, okay, body, we're getting this injection now. Take only what you need and easily flush away the rest.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
Because the body, that's where that mindset comes. If we're convinced that eating the donut is going to go to our thighs and we're going to get fat, what do we create? Fat thigh.
Right.
But if we didn't have a point of view about the donut affecting our body other than, oh my gosh, this tastes so wonderful, right? And it's the same even with the chemotherapy drugs. It's like, hey, body, this is what we need to do, right? This is what we're choosing to do. And how easy can we make this? Like, really, just take what you need and flush the rest away. I don't have to know how the body's going to do that, but I can trust that my body knows how to do that if I ask.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what if your body could be your best friend in it?
And I love that you brought that up, because so many times we do go to our heads to try to figure it out.
And so thank you so much for that point that, hey, you don't have to figure it out. And, what keeps coming up is, like the communion with your body and really being present with your body throughout this. And I know for me, when I look back at how I used to be with my body, I was very disconnected. And certainly now I'm in a very different space and know how to ask the questions and know what my body's telling me. And it's like practice, and there's, don't judge yourself if you haven't been doing it, but how much more, and if you're doing it, great. And, how much communion can you have with your body so that you do start to hear it? Like Fiona talked about the muscle testing and different things, and how much awareness do you have every day from your body telling you things that you may even just be ignoring?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And how much do we run to conclusion that something is really wrong when it actually might not be? And it could be, okay, there's 4 questions that we ask in Access that I really love. And it's so applicable to bodies. Like when we have a pain or something, it's like, all right, what is this? Like, what is this body? And what do we do with it? Because it might say go to the doctor or go to the beach or go to the mountains or stop working or, dump your boyfriend or, change your job. It could be totally unrelated, right, to what you think or what you conclude. So that's where just having these questions change, or, they're so different. And they are totally irrational because, it's like I can't even figure out how I got cancer, right? Like you want to try and figure out, the food or the poisons or the whatever. And it's like, no, it actually, when I look at it and when I ask, it's like, no, my mind created this. I created this out of my attitudes, my behaviors, my choices, my conclusions. My conclusion that it wasn't worth living when this person wasn't on the planet was huge. And I get that I created cancer really quickly. It wasn't like years and years of, there and then all of a sudden it got really bad. My sense is it was fast from my conclusions of, I don't want to be here anymore. I think that was what was building up over the years, is my continual reference to, life isn't worth living or whatever it was. Because I don't even need to know exactly what that was. But energetically, like, wow, I gave up. I was giving up, regardless of all the tools I had. So how can I out-create it and uncreate it now?
Yes, and that's the really cool thing is, you do have choice and you can choose, something different. And before the break, we touched quickly on, like state of mind and humor and laughter and everything, and definitely wanted to bring that into the conversation. And I knew that laughter was like the best medicine for me. And when people will ask, and I get asked all the time, like, what can I do to contribute to my family members or my friends or whatever? Because a lot of times you don't know what to do when somebody is ill, whether it's cancer or something else. So people kind of get frozen and they don't know what to do, so they may not do anything. And then from that, they may kind of withdraw from those people's lives. And then those people are like, what happened to my friends? So in this part of the conversation that I wanted to have today is like, what can we all contribute to anyone who is going through any kind of health issue? For me, I know for sure it's always like laughter, watch a funny movie, bring funny jokes, and bring laughter and light to, obviously cancer traditionally is a very heavy subject. And I know when I heard those words, I thought it was an immediate death sentence. Now, for me, I'm 15 years out. So I'm super grateful, right? I no longer, yay, right? Yeah. And I no longer have that point of view that, oh my God, if you have cancer, that's it. Because I certainly have seen lots of people change it, including myself. And I was like, okay. And for me, I envisioned the chemotherapy going in like little soldiers in my bloodstream and actually, finding those cancer cells and obliterating them.
Right.
And so
at one point I was visualizing whales, like baleen whales, going through my blood and sifting out the cancerous, because multiple myeloma is a blood cancer, the liquid cancer. So it's in your bone marrow. It's as deep as you can go, and it cannot be surgically removed. So, So how amazing, right? And they're saying, anyway, the statistics are when people are in remission from multiple myeloma in 5 years, it traditionally comes back. And I've even been looking at that and going, no, put a zero on that.
No,
like add a zero after 5, and I'll talk to you in 50 years. You know, like that. We'll check out then. So
yeah, and it's not buying into the medical community and other people's statistics and saying, hey, you know, I'm an individual, and that's not going to be me.
Exactly.
Having that choice and saying, no, I'm choosing something different. Yeah. Having that mindset of like the positivity and whatever it is that you might be envisioning, and then you know, if it's for yourself, and also for a family member. If you've got a family member who's got it, you don't, you know, what do they require? What can they hear, and what do they require? While
absolutely
they're going through the treatment.
Absolutely, and I was totally leading my own way. So I was showing my family members that no, I'm not going to buy into, you know, anything that medical community has put on us. I asked my father to read all of the warnings of the side effects of the drugs I was taking. I said, here, you read them. So you know what I might have, but I actually am not going to buy that that's a possibility. And I had a family member, my mother actually had ovarian cancer 6 years ago, and she had a very different story of cancer, which I would love to share with everybody because it kind of shows another side and how to support with, you know, family members too. You know.
Well,
so,
why don't you can tell us that story after the break. You'll leave everybody with bated breath then.
Right. Great timing.
Thanks for listening, you guys.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a couple.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance, everyone. This is Kathy Williams here today with my co-host Betsy McLaughlin and our guest Fiona Dempster. And we're having such a different kind of conversation about dealing with cancer when it's present either in yourself or in your family or with other people you know. And, you know, what choices you can make either as the patient or as a supportive loved one. So, Fiona, you talked, you like baited us. You left us with bated breath before the break. Oh,
exactly. Yeah, I was So not only have I, been playing with cancer, and I'm going to say playing with cancer because it's a totally different reality to play with it. And my mother in 2016 was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it was already stage what I call 4.5. It was really severe. And what my mother showed me with cancer and the way to support, friends and family, Betsy, you were asking how to do that. From what I've experienced is really allow the person who has the illness to drive the bus. Let them show you what it is they desire and require. And if that is dying, let's be in allowance of that. It is not easy. I'm not going to just brush it away and say, oh, it was all, sunshine and roses while my mother was dying. But she showed me that it could be very easy to allow someone to choose that. Because she had her serious surgery. She did not choose chemotherapy because she didn't want to lose her hair, which is what she mentioned to us. So she had massive surgery to remove as much of the cancerous cells as possible. And then she was getting ready to go into therapy. She was intubated way too long. She almost died on the operating table. And but when she was well enough to be charged to therapy, all of her doctors went on vacation, and she took the opportunity and checked herself out of the hospital and said, I'm going home to hospice so I can die. And we, as our family members, basically allowed her to choose that. There was no fighting, no arguing, even though my brother had a different point of view about it and really wanted her to fight with, chemotherapy and have however many years left for her grandson, but she wasn't choosing that. So she went home, she set up hospice, her family was there to support her. I moved in with my mom and my dad and was there for the last 6 weeks of her life. And in that time, she, let everybody know what she wanted for her celebration of life and who to invite and what to have and where to have it and what to do, after she was gone. And so that was such a gift to allow her to dictate what she required, even if it wasn't what we really wanted. And, we were empowered to, turn to our other friends and our other family members to work through that. So we didn't burden her with that. We didn't sit at her bedside bemoaning her demise or her departure. It was like, okay, what can we do to make you comfortable? She really loved lemon sorbet. All of a sudden her taste buds were, turned on so high that she needed something really strong. So I learned to make lemon sorbet, so I would make that for her. And, I'd make soup and things like that. So, what gifts are we to the people who are choosing to pass on, and not pull out all. And, yes, family stuff still comes up, and some people, experience some pretty nasty stuff. And what if we could have more allowance for the ill people and what they choose to say and not take it personally, airing the dirty laundry, so to speak, before people pass. But that was the gift, was allowing her to drive the bus of her illness and what she required and desired. And that's what I created, where I just didn't allow other people to buy into the medical and, be negative or to be doom and gloom. So, I asked for laughter. A friend of mine brought a joke book over. She sent me silly jokes, in emails, and I made the cancer funny. I, on Thursdays, had chemotherapy, which consisted of, thankfully, just a 5-minute injection in my abdomen and 21 pills. I didn't have to sit with a drip bag of chemotherapy for an hour in the clinic. So I could just be on my way. But the next 3 days, I would take anti-nausea pills in advance of getting any symptoms because I didn't want to be nauseous. And then the nausea gave me diarrhea. or the nausea pills gave me diarrhea. So then I had to take diarrhea pills, and then the diarrhea pills backed me up, and then I would take something for that. And this is all in 3 days. And then the joke was by Monday I could fart and I knew I was fine.
Right. That's awesome. And finding humor in something like that is such a gift. And I remember, now I did the drip, and I had chemo every day for 6 months. So I did my best to bring sunshine and laughter into the infusion centers, and being really having a different outlook, and your mindset is so important to as you're going through the treatments, and with anything that you've got going on with your body. And it's like, how easy can you make it? What other choices do you have? What are the possibilities? What can you do with your doctor? Working with your doctor as a team, all of these things for something greater for you and your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to make it super duper messy, go for it.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the things you said, or just, I wanted to bring back the gift that you were for your mom, because I'm pretty aware of the other side of it. My husband's a physician, so he works at the hospital, and he works with these people who are dying, like they're gonna die in the next few days, and their families just really want to hold on and not let the person die. And that actually creates a lot of agony and angst, in the family and in the person who's dying. It's like, if we could give them more permission and be like, hey, you've lived a good life. We're really grateful for you. And, you have full freedom to choose what you're going to choose here. What a gift that is, versus, no, Mom, you can't die. You've got to continue to live. That keeps so many people alive in the hospital for weeks and months who are suffering.
Along with that, Kathy, thank you so much for bringing that up, because what I noticed is when a friend or family member is diagnosed with an illness, it brings up so much in other people's worlds about death and dying that they're actually not ready to even look at for themselves.
True.
So it's easy to focus on the ill person basically saying, don't die because I don't want my life to change. So it is a bit of a muscle to allow that person to have what they're having, and then to have it for ourselves, because there were people that I thought would move closer to me when I shared this information, and they actually moved further away. And many people have gone away, completely gone away.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, it is very interesting, because you bring up very, in the forefront of, it's like, here it is. This is a reality. Death is a reality. And some people are really just not ready for that in their own world. So, that's another part of it as well. And what can we bring to all of it, right? Like, we can allow ourselves to have that uncomfortable distance from other people who are ill and choosing to die, because we don't want them to go, because we don't want our life to change, but we can't have we don't know how to have that conversation. And there was actually 2 people that had that conversation about me and about them. This friend of mine called another friend and said, I'm not ready for her to die because I'm not done with her yet. But she couldn't tell me that directly because she wanted me to choose what I needed to choose.
Yeah.
Instead of sticking me with, you can't die because I need you. So I'm curious how we can have those conversations with people who are choosing illnesses that would at least acknowledge, hey, I love you no matter what you choose, and I'd still really like you to be around. You know, like they say, tell the people you love them every day because tomorrow they may not be around, or whatever that saying is, which is really, really true. It's like, don't wait. Why hold back your kindness and your caring and your gratitude and your love and, you know, calling someone up and going, oh, I was thinking about you, and I just want to say how grateful I am for you. That might actually change something in their universe that isn't yet revealed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it is such a gift.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And nobody likes to look at their own mortality and, you know, their death, and a lot of people just will avoid it so dynamically. And then when you have a doctor telling you, hey, guess what, you've got cancer, and, you know, it can hit you like a 2x4 in your world, it's like, oh, okay, well, now what do I do? You know?
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, too, when you talked about choosing different treatments, what could you tell our listeners about what else they could be doing or asking with the medical community, or, you know, alternative options, and what conversations you would have there as well?
Yeah. There is a lot of stuff out there because I just allowed myself to be open to other possibilities. In addition to, it's like, what else could you add to your treatment? What else could you add to your body, to your healing? And if that's what you're choosing. Because again, if you're choosing to die, have that, right? Like, let your family know that, like my mother, she would tell us, you know, this is it, guys. This is the end for me. I'm really kind of done with it. So, you know, she helped us prepare in her way. You know, it wasn't like we were all sitting next to her bed and she was counseling us this way, but it was, no, this is the end for me. So have that. If that's what you choose, you're not wrong for it.
Right.
I was still there. Even after 3 or 4 weeks of chemo, I was still not sure if I wanted to take myself out through whatever process or to live. Mm-hmm. So in recovery or in dying, you got this, right? Like, and keep asking and being open to what else shows up, and to thank people if it's not the right thing for you. Just go, so much, I'm going to consider it, you know, and they may still want to come at you like you have to do this, but you actually don't have to do anything you don't want to do. So I chose energetic body work through Access Consciousness. I took other supplements, you know, structured water that goes from the cells, you know, so really, because again, my illness was from the very core in the bone marrow. So what was going to contribute to that? So your illness is unique to you, and what's going to work for you may not necessarily work for other people. But just being open to what the universe would like to bring. You know, it could be going to a 3-day seminar that you've always wanted to do and meeting someone who has something, you know, those types of things. Or reading a book, or taking other supplements. I did intensive blue-green algae, red algae therapy for a while. And I can't say that any one thing was it. It all contributed, because that's what I like. I love the diversity, and I'm not a one thing or another. It's hey, how many things can I, try out or play with that has allowed me to create a happier, healthier, more vibrant body and living. So, yeah.
And all the time, keep asking and be that communion with your body. And what an amazing conversation this has been. And we're so grateful that you agreed to come on and talk to us today.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Fiona. And yes,
very quick.
Would you please reiterate where people can reach you?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, Aloha Myeloma, that's MYELOMA.com, and fill out the contact form, and I'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us here. And yes, we're so grateful that you chose to live.
Yes, we are. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and you can catch Betsy and me next Tuesday again at the same time, or find us on iTunes anytime, or SoundCloud. We'll be there with the replays. All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Aloha.